Hi everyone, can you hear me? Good morning. Good to see you all on a Sunday. I hope I am audible and visible. Yeah, so this is a session that is going to be interesting to most of you who want to prepare for INI-CET exam, right? So I would say that this is not just for those who want to get into institutes of national importance. This is also for those who want to clear NEET PG, or for that matter, any competitive exam or any of the exams that are expected for you to be cleared, for you to be able to practice medicine, right? Any exam. Okay, so this topic is INI-CET versus NEET PG. Um, if you have ever looked at an INI-CET question and have ever thought, did I ever read medicine? Okay, you're not alone. This session is for you because I've gone through this. I've always thought, why are these INI-CET questions so tough? Right? So it is not just you. Many of us have gone through this. So two exams, INI-CET exam and NEET PG exam, one of the two exams many a times makes you even doubt your life decisions that you have ever taken. Okay, so the big question is, nobody's questioning if INI-CET is tougher than NEET PG. That goes without saying. Yes, INI-CET exam is tougher than NEET PG. But the big question is it a different syllabus, right? You know the answer is no, because both these exams cover the same 19 subjects. You're supposed to use the same set of textbooks, and the concepts and the topics that are covered would remain the same. But why is one exam difficult when compared to the other? The simple answer to this question is these two exams differ only in the way questions are being asked, right? The only difference is in the way questions are being asked. Okay, so the core thesis here is, okay, please write it down or tattoo it down anywhere you want. The core thesis is NEET PG only asks you a simple question: do you know this fact? Whereas INI-CET asks you, have you understood this concept from all possible angles? Okay, so I would like to repeat this multiple times. Many a time students ask me, what kind of topic should I cover because I'm going to appear for my INI-CET exam? The topic remains the same topic, same subject. Only the cognitive concept that is being tested is going to differ between NEET PG and INI-CET. Okay, so there are four ways in which INI-CET exams differ. Okay, the INI-CET question always feel deeper for four reasons. The first reason is every choice is like a mini MCQ. Okay, if you look at INI-CET questions, every choice feels like a mini MCQ. If you look at a NEET PG question, there are four choices. One is the right answer. The other three options are like just placeholders. They are just there to make a complete MCQ with four choices. Whereas if you look at an INI-CET question paper, all four choices are like four concepts that you need to know. Based on your understanding of those four concepts, you're expected to exclude three choices. They're not just placeholders. Okay, so that's a major difference when it comes to INI-CET question paper. Every option is like a mini MCQ. And the second way INI-CET question differs is multi-level concept is being verified, right? At multi-level, concept is being verified. They don't just ask you about pathophysiology. In INI-CET, they don't just ask you about pathophysiology. They ask you about clinical correlation. They even ask you why. Okay, so I will give you examples for all these reasons in due course, because we are going to see three MCQs asked on the same topic in NEET PG as well as an INI-CET, so that you understand what kind of difference you can expect. If it's an INI-CET paper, it is always a multi-layered thinking. They don't just ask you pathophysiology, they ask you clinical correlation, they even ask you the mechanism behind clinical correlation, so that you think about all these through before you see an actual patient. So my personal favorite is the way INI-CET question papers are designed. I'll show you why. Okay, so that's the second difference. And the third difference is, I like this a lot. It is how you exclude choices, right? You know that INI-CET questions come with multiple right answer types. So I have a characteristic phrase to define this. This is conceptual filtering. Many a times you won't be able to filter these choices because multiple right answers are expected in INI-CET. That is another challenge when you come to INI-CET question. And the last one is there is always a cross subject integration. They don't ask you an MCQ which believes in boundaries, right? They don't believe in boundaries. They don't ask you just a pharmacology question as pharmacology question. They give you a clinical scenario and then they ask you, why do you see hyperkalemia? Because this patient is on AC inhibitor. They don't even give you it as AC inhibitor. They say a hypertensive on this particular drug is presenting with hyperkalemia. What is the mechanism? So they don't respect boundaries, right? Many a times MCQs are asked based on biochemistry, physiology, pharmacology, and medicine put together. So these are the 4 reasons behind why INI-CET questions feel very deep. The first one is every choice is like a mini MCQ. Second is based on multi-layered thinking. And third is multiple right answer type MCQs are always expected in INI-CET question papers and they don't respect boundaries. Okay. So let me show you examples for all this. Good afternoon, Minha. Good afternoon. So the first example is this, right? So this is about hepatic encephalopathy. Look at the NEET PG MCQ. A patient with cirrhosis develops hepatic encephalopathy. What is the main toxin? Can all of you give me the right answer in the live chat, please? What do you think is the right answer? We know it is ammonia, right? Ammonia causes metabolic encephalopathy. We all know ammonia causes blood-brain barrier. It causes cerebral edema and that causes hepatic encephalopathy. Good afternoon from Nepal, Rahul Yadav. Yes. So what is the right answer here? The right answer here is ammonia. 99% of students would get this right. Right. Now look at the INI-CET question, which is asked in the same topic, metabolic encephalopathy or hepatic encephalopathy. Very, very good, Smriti. So in advanced liver disease, the true statement is or are. Okay. Look at choice A, oxidative decarboxylation of alpha ketoglutarate. Choice B, hyperammonemia. Choice C, low ATP production. Choice D is conversion of alpha ketoglutarate to glutamate to glutamine. And for you to answer this MCQ, what are the concepts that you are expected to know? You should know that urea cycle happens in liver. So when there is decompensated liver disease, when there is no urea cycle, you should know that ammonia levels are high, which means choice B is true. Yes, there is hyperammonemia, but that's not enough. You should know that ammonia pK is very high. So ammonia reacts with hydrogen ions present within the cell to form ammonium ions. That reduces hydrogen ion availability. What if hydrogen ion is not available? You should know that electron transport chain does not happen and that causes ATP depletion, right? You should know that there is ATP depletion. That is not enough. So now you know there are 2 statements that are true. One is hyperammonemia. The other one is low ATP production. The reason behind low ATP production is high pK of ammonia will allow ammonia to sequestrate hydrogen ions. Reduced hydrogen ions will not allow electron transport chain to happen. That causes ATP depletion. Not just this, you should also know that whenever there is ammonia that is formed within the cell, because ammonia is toxic, ammonia reacts with alpha ketoglutarate to form glutamate, and that glutamate in neuron becomes glutamine. Okay, which means choice D is also true. In hepatic encephalopathy, alpha ketoglutarate becomes glutamate and then it becomes glutamine, and glutamine is a non-toxic form of ammonia in neuron. And because of all these changes, when there is low alpha ketoglutarate, citric acid cycle does not happen. Only when alpha ketoglutarate enters into citric acid cycle, that can be oxidative decarboxylation of alpha ketoglutarate. That does not happen in advanced liver disease. So choice A is false, B, C and D are all true. So tell me, what is the right answer for this INI-CET question? You should know that for this INI-CET question, there are multiple right answers. Choice B, C, and D are all true. You should also know that choice A is false. Only then you get the full mark. Okay, so do you understand how conceptual this MCQ is? This is not an MCQ that I created. This is the previous year INI-CET question. That is why, right? Take home message for all of you. If you want to get into any of the institutes of national importance, you should learn concepts. You should not just be reliant on facts. You should not just be reliant on pattern recognition. That is not going to be sufficient. You should learn everything conceptually. Only then you will be able to get into aims. Do you get it? So this is how it differs between NEET PG as well as an INI-CET. Good afternoon, everybody. You passed FMGE. Very good, Piyush Kumar. I'm so happy for you. Getting overwhelmed and anxious for INI-CET and NEET PG, please don't get overwhelmed. Please understand that this is just a part of your life. This is not your entire life, right? It's just a part of your life. You are already successful. You've finished your medicine, which means you're already successful. You're just adding more layer to your cake, right? You're just adding more layer to your cake. So be rest assured, you're already successful in life, right? Remove off that anxiety and watch the session with 100% mindfulness to understand what kind of gear should you change at this point in your life. Okay. Yes. Can we go ahead? So this is a major difference. Okay. So what is a major difference that you see here? Every option is a concept. Do you see that every option is a concept that you should understand? Okay. So this is one example. Now another example, look at this. This is related to myocardial infarction. This is a NEET PG question. Don't you all know the right answer for this question? Most sensitive early marker for myocardial infarction is. Everybody knows, right? At least 95% of students seated here would know that the earliest and the sensitive marker for myocardial infarction is myoglobin. Is it true we need 165 marks in FMG? I don't think that's true, but I'm not here to give false information. Probably I'll refer, I'll then confirm it and then I'll post it on the chat here. Okay, so what is the right answer here? The right answer is myoglobin. This is very easy, right? I would say this is very easy because you recall the fact and you're done with this MCQ. This is what you can expect in NEET PG. Now look at what you can expect in INI-CET. This is an INI-CET question which says patient presents 2 hours after chest pain, right? In the first 2 hours after chest pain, which changes are expected? Look at these choices. They are not only talking about cardiac biomarkers, they are also asking you about the reason behind why these biomarkers get elevated in myocardial infarction. So what you should know is LDH is not a nuclear enzyme. We know that already. LDH is a cytoplasmic enzyme. So we know LDH increase is not related to nuclear breakdown. Okay, exclude that. Similarly, troponin, CKMB. Let's look at CKMB now. We know CKMB is not a mitochondrial protein. CKMB is a sarcoplasmic protein, right? It is also there in the sarcoplasm, but the only difference is it's attached to these sarcolemmal proteins. Okay, so CKMB rise cannot be expected in the first 2 hours. It is not because it's a mitochondrial protein, it's also cytoplasmic protein, but it's attached to all these sarcolemmal proteins. So it takes some time for it to get elevated. What will be elevated first? Myoglobin rise happens first because it's a free cytoplasmic protein which gets quickly released as soon as there is a myocardial injury. So the answer here is choice B. But additionally, you will have to also think about, okay, where are they located? Is there a trap behind this kind of a question? Is myoglobin really a cytoplasmic protein? Is that the trap? So all these questions arise in your mind. You should be very clear about the concept, not just about these biomarkers, elevation, duration, but also about the location of these biomarkers. So this is where it is complicated when it comes to an INI-CET question. It's not just about the timeline that you're supposed to memorize. You should also know about the mechanism of elevation of all these biomarkers. So that's the second difference that I want you all to observe. Okay. And the third difference, look at this. This is septic shock. Okay, this is a septic shock based question. So this is a NEET PG MCQ previous year question. They asked feature of septic shock is. So what do you all know about septic shock? In septic shock, cytokines like TNF alpha, interleukin 6 get elevated, because of which there is nitric oxide that is released. Inducible nitric oxide synthase is stimulated. Nitric oxide is released. That is peripheral vasodilatation that reduces vascular resistance. So you all know decreased systemic vascular resistance is a feature of septic shock. And what you also know that in septic shock, what is expected at one point? There is a cold septic shock that you expect, wherein there is a decrease in the cardiac output. You don't expect warm peripheries towards the end. You expect cold peripheries, right? And there is no decreased lactate, there is increased lactate. So most of you, again, at least 90% of you would know that in septic shock, there is decreased systemic vascular resistance that is caused by vasodilatation, that is caused by stimulation of inducible nitric oxide synthase. So most of you would get it right. It is decreased systemic vascular resistance. Now look at this INI-CET question. They are adding a twist to it. What is the twist? Please look at this adjective. What is the adjective? An early septic shock, which are expected. So here you should know that there are two stages in septic shock. One is early septic shock. The other one is late septic shock. Early is a warm shock. The later one is cold shock. Okay. Why is the early part warm? It is because of whatever I told you. Nitric oxide synthase is stimulated. Nitric oxide is released. That causes peripheral vasodilatation. That causes the periphery to be warm for some time. Okay, later on what happens? Whenever there is an increase in the vascular permeability, when there is oozing of plasma into the interstitium, then there is hypovolemic shock. When it reaches a hypovolemic shock, then the person becomes cold. So in the early part of septic shock, what you expect is, yes, there is decreased systemic vascular resistance. And what you expect is there is an increase in the cardiac output. Whenever there is a decreased systemic vascular resistance, when there is sympathetic stimulation, what happens is there is an increase in the cardiac output. Because of which, yes, there can be warm periphery in the early stage. But what is not a feature? Yeah, increased lactate is also a feature. So in early septic shock, which are expected? All these four choices are expected, right? That is why I said it's very complex. When it comes to INI-CET, you should know concepts, you should know what are the possible features of this particular condition, and you should be very confident to say that all these are true. So decreased systemic vascular resistance, increased cardiac output, warm peripheries, increased lactate, all these are expected. All may be correct, which means concept clarity is essential. For you to be able to answer an INI-CET question, concept clarity is essential. Do you see the difference between how NEET PG is framed and how INI-CET is framed? Yes? Good. So this is about septic shock. Okay. Now, I also told you that there is always cross-subject integration when it comes to INI-CET, right? They don't respect boundaries. They always integrate multiple subjects in one MCQ. Look at this previous year question. A patient on ACE inhibitor develops hyperkalemia. We all know this fact. But they're not asking you, do they present with hyperkalemia or do they present with hypokalemia? What are they asking you? They're asking you for mechanism. So what you're expected to know here, you're expected to know that ACE inhibitor inhibits the conversion of angiotensin 1 to angiotensin 2. This does not happen. When there is low angiotensin 2, there is low aldosterone. Right? There is low aldosterone. Whenever there is low aldosterone, low angiotensin 2, there is feedback stimulation of renin. So please remember, in anybody who's on ACE inhibitor, there is an increase in renin level, there is decrease in aldosterone level. When there is decrease in aldosterone, you know, aldosterone usually stimulates sodium-potassium ATPase pump. In this case, there is low activity of sodium-potassium ATPase pump. and there is low upregulation of epithelial sodium channels, low sodium reabsorption. When there is low sodium reabsorption, there is low potassium secretion. Whenever there is low potassium secretion, that causes hyperkalemia. So what is the right answer here? So if they had asked you in the presence of AC inhibitor, which of the following is true? Okay, in that case, I would say yes, there is an increase in renin secretion. There is low sodium potassium ATPase pump activity. There is no increased sodium delivery. Yes, there is reduced aldosterone, which causes decreased potassium secretion. Okay, so there are two right choices here, but I have to be mindful. What is the question? Which mechanism explains hyperkalemia? Increase in renin does not explain hyperkalemia. So though this is a feature, that does not explain hyperkalemia. What explains hyperkalemia? Reduced aldosterone, which decreases potassium secretion, is the explanation for hyperkalemia. So here, not just concept clarity, I should also be mindful. I should find out what exactly is the question about. The question is only about why is there hyperkalemia. Hence the right answer is choice A. So in this MCQ, they've integrated, they've integrated pharmacology, they've integrated physiology, they've integrated medicine. And that is why you have to be very mindful when you answer INI-CET questions. Okay. So these are the facts that you should have in your mind whenever you're appearing for your INI-CET exam. Okay. Now, how has INI-CET paper evolved over a period of time? The first evolution is, as I said, multi-level concept testing, right? Multi-level concept testing. So you should always integrate every topic as concept and learn. Okay. And not just this, please remember there are many unexpected topics based on which questions are often asked in INI-CET. What do I mean by unexpected topics? Did you see an exam asking you a question on surface plasmon resonance graph? Did you see that question? Surface plasmon resonance graph. Have you ever come across this question before? I have not come across this question before. Have I learned this concept? I had not learned this concept. But yes, I've used this, right? As a biochemist who has a strong interest in experiments, who has a strong interest in research, I have used a surface plasmon resonance graph. But is this expected for a NEET PG aspirant or an INI-CET aspirant to know about this topic? No. I would say no. But is it asked? Yes, it is asked. But the good news is, in every INI-CET paper, even in the so-called very complex INI-CET exam, very difficult INI-CET exam, not more than 10 MCQs have been asked in such topics. That's a very good information that you should take home today. Okay, which means even if you don't answer those 10 MCQs, your rank will not get affected. So what I'm telling you here is, when you come across an MCQ based on a topic which has never been asked, on that day of exam, please don't lose your confidence. Yeah, you should remember me saying this on the day of exam. Remember me saying this. Yes, ma'am told me. You're not supposed to lose your confidence at this point in time. I have to continue to be mindful. Even if I answer the remaining 190 MCQs, my rank will not get affected. Do you get it? This is one assurance from my side. And the second fact is, even in those MCQs which are based on these unexpected topics, intelligent guesses often help. I'm not saying fluke based guess. It is not fluke based guess. It's intelligent guessing always helps. Look at this MCQ. This MCQ was once asked, right? What was the question? Barth syndrome presents with heart failure, deficiency of which mitochondrial membrane structure is responsible, right? 100% or at least 99% of students had not revised this topic. Let me not underestimate this topic saying revised. 99% of students who attended this exam had not even heard of this disorder. Okay, but look at these choices. Yes, now you all know the answer because we have been discussing this after this topic was asked. But when this question was asked, most of the students had not even heard of Barth syndrome. But look at these choices, right? Cephalin, lecithin, cardiolipin, plasmalogen. And they say heart failure. Heart failure, what should be an answer? Cardiolipin, right? It's an intelligent guess. And they've also told you mitochondrial membrane. Whenever you learn lipid chemistry, in all my sessions on lipid chemistry, I repeatedly say mitochondrial membrane has got cardiolipin. So if you connect these two, you would answer it as cardiolipin, right? This is an intelligent guess, right? This is an intelligent guess, not a fluke based guess. That is why I said the major weapon that you should carry to your exam, which is an INI-CET exam, is being mindful on the day of exam, right? Do not lose your confidence at any point during the exam. Read every MCQ with the confidence that yes, I will know to answer this MCQ. I will be able to exclude choices. I am going to make an intelligent guess to make a right answer for this MCQ, right? With that mindset, if you go to your exam, you will be right most of the times, okay? So the last reassurance that I would like to give you all, yes, that is this. The key reassurances: if you answer expected topics, if you answer MCQs based on expected topics, by being mindful and by using intelligent guesses, you will be able to get a good rank in INI-CET as well. Okay, so let me show you 3 MCQs, or actually two MCQs from now, for you to understand why you have to be mindful on the day of exam. Okay, so this was a question recently asked in INI-CET November 2025, right? November 2025. Deficiency of which enzyme leads to increased 2,3-BPG and low glucose in vitro? So you should remember these are the 2 facts that you should always consider to answer this MCQ. When this question was asked, students were confused so much, okay? So you should remember that low glucose. If the question is about low glucose, you should know that it should be an enzyme that is related to gluconeogenesis, right? It should be an enzyme that is related to gluconeogenesis. Only then it will cause low glucose. So quickly, what you should recollect what are the exclusive enzymes of gluconeogenesis. You know that there are 4 exclusive enzymes of gluconeogenesis. Can you recollect an answer? Pyruvate carboxylase, phosphoenol pyruvate carboxykinase, fructose 1,6-bisphosphatase, glucose 6-phosphatase. So when any of these 4 enzymes are defective, yes, there will be low glucose in vitro. But will it cause increased 2,3-BPG? No. If there should be increased 2,3-BPG, then it should be a defect of an enzyme which is not only exclusive for gluconeogenesis. It should be an enzyme that is common to both gluconeogenesis and glycolysis. So out of these 4 choices, which is an enzyme which is common to both glycolysis and gluconeogenesis? That is phosphoglycerate kinase. Only when that enzyme is defective, that is going to cause both hypoglycemia and increase in 2,3-BPG. So what is expected for you to answer this MCQ? It is not pathway memorization. They're not expecting you to remember the entire pathway of glycolysis. They're not expecting you to remember the entire pathway of gluconeogenesis. That is why if you look at any of my rapid revision sessions, I don't force you to memorize the pathway. I only teach the concept related to all those pathways, so that even when there is a twist in the question, you will be able to answer this. So if you understand that this is a question on an enzyme which is common to both glycolysis and gluconeogenesis, if you have that logic in your brain, then you will be able to answer that the right answer is phosphoglycerate kinase. Thanks, Lucifer. It is not some confidence. Please remember, you have the maximum confidence that any student can have because you have learned biochemistry conceptually, right? So don't think it's some confidence. Be extremely optimistic, okay? Be extremely confident about your knowledge. Only that extreme confidence and extreme optimism will keep you mindful on the day of exam. Okay, so just exclude choices, you'll be able to get the right answer. So the right answer for that question is phosphoglycerate kinase defect. Now look at another MCQ, previously asked question. It was on Warburg effect. Cancer cells take up excess glucose because, right? So anybody who has learned all 19 subjects, right? Anybody who has learned all 19 subjects, even in bits and pieces, would know that this question is on Warburg effects. And 50% of students would have memorized Warburg effect as neoplastic cells use glucose. They would have just memorized, right? Neoplastic cells use glucose aerobically. But with that factual memory, will you be able to answer this question? No. Right? You should understand it. You should understand why do neoplastic cells use glucose. I've told you they use glucose because of two major reasons. One is rate of onset of ATP production is faster. Rate of onset of ATP production is faster. And many intermediates of glycolysis can be used for anabolism. Right? So having understood these two reasons behind why they use glucose, I've also told you, though these are the two reasons, there is a disadvantage of Warburg effect. It is that it's an energy inefficient pathway. When it's an energy inefficient pathway, then it should take up more glucose. I told you how does it take more glucose? By having GLUT1 transporters. So you should know that it uses GLUT1 transporters, using which you would have excluded choice C. And you should have remembered that in Warburg effect, one glucose becomes 2 lactate. It does not become acetyl-CoA. And you should remember that it takes up more glucose because it forms lactate. Right? So you know the right answer is choice A, because you have understood Warburg effect conceptually. Right? So let me tell you a summary on why students struggle when it comes to INI-CET exam. Right? Students struggle when it comes to INI-CET exam only because they learn facts. They don't understand concepts. Point number 1. Point number 2, they don't just know facts, they just have memorized facts. They have been always reliant on pattern recognition. They've always been dependent on mnemonics. Right? So please come out of that. Please don't be dependent on just mnemonic based learning. Don't just be reliant on pattern recognition. Don't just memorize facts. Always understand concepts. Right? Only then you'll be able to exclude choices. Only then you'll be able to include choices. Okay? And please don't rely on simple guessing. Please be reliant on intelligent guessing. So these are the reasons why students usually struggle. So what is a smart strategy that you're all going to follow? Right? The smart strategy that you're all going to follow is the first strategy, always learn why. Right? So in all my sessions, I've always requested students to take a resolution. Right? The resolution should be to ask why, even if it's me, right, who's your facilitator in learning. If I tell you a fact, for example, if I say, if I tell you that ammonia is toxic to brain, you should immediately ask me why. Why is it toxic to brain? If I say it crosses blood-brain barrier, you should ask me, what if it crosses blood-brain barrier? What does it do after that? If I say its pK is high, you should say, what if its pK is high? Right? So keep asking yourself why until you're able to understand the entire concept behind an illness, the entire concept behind the presentation. Right? In pharmacology, if you're learning AC inhibitors present with hyperkalemia, ask why. Why hyperkalemia? What if angiotensin 2 is not produced? What if aldosterone is not synthesized? What if epithelial sodium channels do not get upregulated? Ask why until you reach the point where you have understood there is hyperkalemia, right? So the key word that you should remember today is why, right? You're going to ask why for every fact that you're going to learn. And whenever you work out previous year question paper on INI-CET, don't just look at the right choice. Always look at all other wrong choices. Understand that every wrong choice that you see in an INI-CET paper is a concept that you should understand. Okay. For example, in metabolic encephalopathy, if you know, yes, there is low ATP production. Yes, there is alpha ketoglutarate becoming glutamate, becoming glutamine. That is not enough. You should understand what is happening to this oxidative decarboxylation of alpha ketoglutarate. Only then you have solved that MCQ. Only then you have understood that MCQ. right? So always read every MCQ as 4 MCQs, right? 4 choices, 4 MCQs. And even if you're a student who's not interested in getting into Institute of National Importance, right? Even if you think my aim is only NEET PG, get yourself prepared for INI-CET, right? Always reach a higher level so that on the day of exam, you'll be able to appear for NEET PG, right? So think like an INI-CET aspirant, even if you're a NEET PG aspirant. Okay, and always try to understand and explain concepts in your mind. Always understand mechanisms, right? So don't just memorize facts. Always ask yourself why, understand concepts behind it, understand mechanisms behind it, understand the clinical correlation whenever you're learning a preclinical subject. In that case, NEET PG or INI-CET or the level of difficulty of a question paper does not matter. All exams would be the same for you. Okay, so this is about what I would like to tell you as differences between NEET PG and INI-CET. Yes, it can be done anytime, right? Even if you're into a second revision or your final revision, it can be done. But don't think your brain will miraculously start working in a different way on the day of exam. Do you get it? You will have to train your brain now, right? You will have to train your brain now to exclude choices, to understand every choice as an MCQ, to be mindful on the day of exam. Train your brain starting from now, right? This is possible by you writing down multiple INI-CET previous year question papers as grand tests. Okay, at this point in time, you can be an INI-CET aspirant or a NEET PG aspirant. That is immaterial. 90% of your time should be devoted for you to write grant tests and to solve those grant test question papers. Okay, and what paper should you write as grant test? Previous year NEET PG, previous year INI-CET. And when you solve those questions, your brain should be tuned to think the way I told you. When you work out an MCQ, ask yourself why. Okay, I'm reading an MCQ which tells me that there are causes of high anion gap metabolic acidosis. And I'm told that in diarrhea, there is normal anion gap metabolic acidosis. I'm not going to memorize it just like that. I'm going to ask why. Why is the anion gap normal in diarrhea? Right? You should find out what is happening in diarrhea. You should know that in diarrhea, there is hyperchloremia. What if there is hyperchloremia? Anion gap formula is sodium minus within brackets chloride and bicarbonate. You should understand in metabolic acidosis caused by diarrhea, low bicarbonate is compensated by an increase in chloride. And that is why anion gap remains normal. There you should not stop. Okay, if diarrhea is a cause of normal anion gap metabolic acidosis, what are the other causes of normal anion gap metabolic acidosis? Am I able to explain that also? Then you should know not only diarrhea, renal tubular acidosis is also a cause of normal anion gap metabolic acidosis. So you should find out what is happening in renal tubular acidosis wherein the anion gap remains normal. Right? So it should be like a string of thoughts that you have in your brain, right? It should be a string of thoughts. So your brain is plastic, right? Your brain, it is not elastic. What is an elastic substance? Even if you stretch it, try to come back to its original shape and size. But luckily your brain is plastic. So if you stretch it, it remains stretched. If you stimulate it, it remains stimulated. If you train your brain to think concepts, then your brain will think of concepts on the day of exam also. Not like miracle on the day of exam, it will start thinking concepts. Okay, so build those links in your brain starting from today by working out multiple MCQs and by thinking it through. Okay, so anytime it's possible. It's never too late. Okay, Mercedes-Benz sign. Okay, I don't want anybody to sound pessimistic here. Yeah, being pessimistic does not help in your life, does not help in anybody's life. Okay, so I strongly believe in manifestation. So be happy about where you are. If you're finished MBBS, be happy about it. You are in the right place at the right time. Okay, it's just that you have to develop your skills in such a way that whatever comes on your way, you're able to kick it out. Do you understand that? So medicine, that can be no field that can be more gratifying than medicine. So be happy wherever you are. Don't get demotivated and don't demotivate others. Okay. Okay. So that is all for today, right? So don't be scared of INI-CET. INI-CET is just another exam in your life. Face this exam with confidence, with positivity, and come out with flying colors. I'll see you on the other side. Yep. Thank you. From third year, how to prepare for INI-CET. From any point in time in your life, preparing for INI-CET is all about asking yourself why, asking yourself how. If you're in your third year, you're at the right time, right? So ENT, Opthal, SPM, medicine, surgery, OG, pediatrics, ortho. So you have so many subjects that you are going to face from now. Okay, so any subject, don't tell me ENT is full of facts, Opthal is full of facts, SPM is full of facts, right? Yes, SPM has got lots of facts, but even in SPM, ask yourself why, understand the reason and learn it. That way you can make it more interesting, and that way it gets registered in your memory. That way your brain is tuned to think. So for preparing for INI-CET, two keywords is why and how. Understand concepts, be mindful, you'll be able to clear the exam. Okay, I'm happy to be a favorite. You're all my favorites. Okay, yeah, see you all soon in another session. Thank you all.